talking about. Obviously, you're probably one of the most beloved TV personalities in America, and I would say it's hard to do because people from left, right, and middle like you. And that's not an easy thing to do.
Nope.
When your messaging is hard work, dirty jobs, don't chase your passion. Right. Some of the stuff that you say could piss off the other side, but they still like you. How are you so likable where people want to hear from you, even though they disagree with you?
That's an extraordinarily nice way to frame a really thoughtful question. Thank you. I don't really know, except to say that part of it has to do with optics. And I freelanced in this crazy business for 20 years before Dirty Jobs became a thing. And when it became a thing, the optics of that show, at least in the first season, it was just feces from every species, right? I mean, most people in the country got to know me as a guy crawling through a sewer. And so they saw me literally covered in other people's crap with condoms stuck to my rubber suit as I attempted to do whatever the god-awful job was. And so I think part of it was, well, whatever this guy has to say, whatever it is he's selling, whatever it is he wants me to think or believe or do, he's covered with other people's crap. So how full of crap can he really be? You know what I mean? It's like there was so much baked in humility for that show. And I'm not saying it's because I'm a humble guy. I'm not, frankly. In fact, for 20 years, I was impersonating a host and pretty good at it, and in my world, you get paid based on your ability to create the illusion of competence and knowledge in short bursts. That's what hosts do. Dirty Jobs simply required me to stop doing that, take the pie in the face, let the person I was with be the expert, and assume the role, not of a host or an expert, but as an avatar, as an apprentice, frankly. So that's the long answer to your question. I think people got to know me as a guy who came out of the gate saying, I don't know, could be wrong, probably am, but here's what I think. And so I got a certain amount of permission as a result of that show to weigh in on things that, frankly, I'm really not that qualified to talk about.
How do you view people you disagree with, for yourself? Like if you, what is this here you just pulled up?
I found this to your point, Pat. We're at a divided time in America today, right? I mean, possibly and definitely in our lifetime. And we talk about being a unifier versus being a divider.
Sure.
And we had this conversation yesterday, and we were like, well, is he more right? Is he more left? And Pat looked into who's following you, and it was people all across the aisle, not even politically, just across the media spectrum, across everything. Ellen, and then Mike Huckabee, and all wide range. And here, I just looked at this article. Mike Rowe hits #1 on top TV personality social media, meaning somehow you're a very beloved figure. You're not a divisive figure, and. Nice. Well, I mean, I'm just looking at the stats here, brother. I mean, this ain't my opinion.
Hey, man, it's on the internet. It's got to be true. But look at that hair, by the way.
True.
Holy cow!
Yeah, this must be
amazing.
Well, Mike, let me ask this. Here's a question I wanted to ask, and I know this is really hard to get something like this to happen, but we're living in a time where the last 2.5 years, if you want to talk about divide and conquer, split the country, MAGA crowd hates the other side hates MAGA crowd. Look at these Republicans, these Democrats, pro-vax, anti-vax. It's so much about, I was on a flight the other day. Guy sitting next to me on the flight back from D.C. The entire time he had his mask on. In your mind, you already can say who this person voted for, what kind of channel he watches. You can probably list 20 things this guy does. And then, it's unfortunate, but we kind of are doing that. So for you, whether it's, I know you're an Ayn Rand guy, I know you're a big reader, you quote philosophers, you're a guy that was, big on self-development. Was the concept of how to win friends and influence people a natural thing that you grew up with? Or was it something your mom taught you, your dad taught you, a book you read? How did that personality come about to learn how to get along with people you disagree with?
It was probably a little bit of all of it, but your example is so insanely relatable. I mean, I sat next to a guy coming out here with 2 masks on, right? And when I sat down, he offered me a mask. And I said, "Hey, thank you, but I'm going to go ahead and."
And he had already warmed it up.
I mean, he pulled it out of his pocket.
It wasn't one of the ones.
Not the extra one on his face.
It's not what he was wearing. You know?
Oh, okay.
And so naturally, I offered him my underpants. Right? No, I just said thank you, but I'm gonna, I'm good. He said okay, and I sat there and I thought, what do I say to him next? I mean, we're gonna spend 6 hours together, and it's not like we have to have a conversation. But to your point, I didn't see a mask. I saw a talisman. I saw an indicator of some other set of beliefs. So I stepped back from that and I said, well, wait a minute. Is it just a mask? Is it something else? And then I thought, well, what if he doesn't feel well? What if he thinks he might be running a low-grade fever? What if he's actually not scared, but trying to be as considerate as he possibly can to the people in this pressurized aluminum tube that are about to defy the laws of gravity? And what if he's just offering me a mask the way I might offer somebody a breath mint if I had an extra one? You know what I mean? Now, do I believe that's where he was coming from? Actually, no, I don't. I think he was probably coming from where you think he was coming from. But I felt better thinking that I was sitting next to a guy who was concerned about me.
Optics.
And then I just went on with my life.
Yeah.
So look, you can assign any meaning to anything, whether it's a mask or the release I just looked at for the first time that I wasn't able to immediately sign because I wasn't sure what I was doing, right? And so in those moments where you're not quite sure what's happening, you either just stick your head in the sand and go la 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 and sign it and hope for the best, or you put yourself in the other person's place and say, well, why would they ask me to sign this? Maybe they're worried that I'm going to bitch them up somewhere down the line by withholding a permission or something, right? And so it's all that. If you're able and willing and interested to look at the man behind the mask and ask yourself a slightly different question, then study after study shows you might not be an asshole.